The U.S. president widening his crackdown on immigration. Donald Trump signing a new travel ban targeting 12 countries, saying he wants to protect America from foreign tourists and other national security threats. In what is a clear revival, one of Mr. Trump's most controversial policies in his first term in office.
In the 21st century, we've seen one terror attack after another carried out by foreign visa overstayers from dangerous places all over the world. And thanks to Biden's open door policies, today there are millions and millions of these illegals who should not be in our country. In my first term, my powerful travel restrictions were one of our most successful policies, and they were a key part of preventing major foreign terror attacks on American soil.
From next Monday, the U.S. will fully restrict and limit the entry of nationals from countries considered as posing a very high risk. These include Afghanistan, Myanmar, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. On partial restriction are nationals from 7 countries that pose a so-called high-level risk. That list includes Laos and Venezuela, with citizens barred from entering on tourist and student visas. They will not be permitted to settle permanently in America, although there are exemptions for those with existing visas. The selection appears to target nations with the highest overstay rates. The White House says countries facing the total ban were deemed deficient in their screening and vetting procedures. They were also considered to pose a high security risk. But exceptions include athletes attending major sporting events, some dual nationals, and Afghan citizens holding special immigrant visas. Mr. Trump warns that more countries could be banned as new threats emerge. Human rights groups have condemned this move. And more, we're joined by Toni Waterman reporting live from Washington, D.C. And CNA's Leong right here in the studio with us. I'm going to start with you, Toni. President Trump saying the travel ban was in response, or this was in a video posted to social media, to that attack in Colorado. The suspected attacker in that incident was an Egyptian national, but Egypt is not on either of these lists of countries.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Egypt is not part of this list of countries. It seems as if the president used the attack as an example of why the travel ban is necessary. Federal authorities say that the suspect in that case had overstayed a tourist visa and that he was living here illegally, although there is some discretion about that. But Trump said that there were millions of people like him living in the country. The truth is that the wheels for this ban was set in motion many, many months ago. On his very first day in office, Trump signed an executive order mandating a review of the visa vetting process. And the countries that were singled out, he says, have a large-scale presence of terrorists, that they failed to cooperate on visa security, and that they have persistently high rates of illegal visa overstays, among other things. It is the State Department, so U.S. embassies and consulates abroad, that ultimately issue these visas. It's not as if they are farmed out to third parties or left up to these governments in these individual countries. As you mentioned, there are some exceptions here. So for green card holders, for dual nationals, diplomats, and visas that have already been approved. But many of the countries that are on this list are war-torn nations. They are led by repressive regimes. So this is going to really limit the ability of the most vulnerable in those society to flee to the United States. This is really, though, part of this wider crackdown on immigration. It is a pillar of Donald Trump's policy, both domestic and foreign. And it's really this carryover from his first term in office when he barred travelers from 7 majority Muslim nations from coming into the United States. This ban, though, could actually impact even more people. The State Department issued about 170,000 visas for people from these 12 countries just last year. And the president has made it very clear that this list could expand going forward.
All right, Wykit, you've heard what Toni just said. Those countries on the list, quite a few of them involve war-torn countries with repressive governments. And you have covered for us all these years now, in fact, what's happening in Myanmar. In fact, you were unable to go back to cover that for us. Does this explain why Myanmar is on the more severe list and Laos, another ASEAN member, is on the 7-member large list for slightly less severe risk?
I don't think so, Wei Su, because I myself am surprised by this move. Yes, Tony has mentioned that, Myanmar is one of those, Tony mentioned war-torn nations. Myanmar is one of those war-torn nations. But to me, it is a surprise because, before this blanket travel ban, yes, some members of the junta from Myanmar were banned from traveling to the US. That includes, of course, Myanmar Army Chief Min Aung Hlaing. But this travel ban that affects the whole of Myanmar doesn't quite make sense for me because it is not easy for Myanmar people to get out of their own country. Already, there are new laws restricting Myanmar citizens who are eligible for conscription to get out of the country. And then there are also travel bans for people who want to work outside of Myanmar. There are quotas that limit the number of people that can get out. So to me, it is a surprise. But of course, I tried to speak to quite a few people, including a Myanmar expert, and I asked him what the immediate impact and concern is with regard to this issue. Let's take a listen.
Those who have a temporary protection visa in United States, most of the students who are somehow involved in the different activism, and most of the people who have involved in different, research and other, engaging with the different stakeholders, they may not want to come back Burma soon because they're afraid, right? So now they are living in the temporary visiting visa, and most of the visa will going to be expired soon. I think they may have a very difficult situation.
Waikid, you cover this, and in a way, you are not a layman in any sense of the word, so you might be more accustomed to how Mr. Trump and his administration manages issues like these. Even so, we've had the U.S. Secretary of Defense, you were at the Shangri-La Dialogue, coming for an informal defense ministers meeting, saying the U.S. is strongly committed to this region. And then you had this move in which two countries, in effect, are considered not allowed their citizens to actually enter the United States. For someone less accustomed to Mr. Trump's style of management, is this a sign of mixed signals?
It is. Because if you look at it from a layperson's point of view, you've got the US coming to this region saying, we want to engage you more. But of course, that is in the context of a global defense partnership platform. Here, we're talking about a domestic issue, how the US views immigration policy to protect itself. But at the end of the day, it does seem to be US sending the region very mixed signals, right? And coming from the point of view of ASEAN, we know that recently ASEAN and the US have agreed to upgrade their ties to the highest level called the CSP, which stands for Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. And under this CSP, they work on many aspects, including boosting people-to-people flow. So in that spirit, Laos and Myanmar are part of ASEAN. In that spirit, if you have unilateral bans of people moving to the US, it again goes against the spirit of the CSP and boosting people movement. But that said, these are not targeted at ASEAN as a whole. So it's quite likely that if the countries involved, Myanmar and Laos, want to take it up, they will take it up bilaterally with the US.
All right, thanks for that, Waikid. Back to you, Tony. This move on 12 countries and then 7 countries, their nationals being banned entry into the United States, being seen as an expansion of Mr. Trump's inclinations as far as anti-immigration go. And you were saying moves like this, the wheels were set in motion a good while ago. So it's not surprising this comes on the same day that Mr. Trump signs a proclamation to suspend international visas for new students at Harvard University. How has that school responded? We have asked you this before. What's the latest response? And does Harvard have power to protect its current international students?
Well, Harvard has condemned this move, calling it illegal, saying that it violates the school's First Amendment rights, and it has vowed to continue to protect its international students. And I say continue because this is the latest in a series of attacks against the university. The Trump administration has frozen billions of dollars in federal grants, money that often goes towards very important scientific research. And it has already tried to bar the enrollment enrollment of foreign students at Harvard. This was an effort that was blocked by a federal judge. So this appears to be some sort of workaround for the Trump administration. And the White House is saying that it's restricting student visas at Harvard for 6 months. And it cited these concerns over foreign ties and criminal activity, particularly with China. The president arguing that Harvard is linked to research that could advance China's military modernization. This could impact nearly 6,800 people, not just Chinese students at Harvard, but 6,800 individuals that go there, which is about a quarter of Harvard's student population. Likely path here is going to be Harvard filing yet another lawsuit against the Trump administration. It has been very successful with the lawsuits that it has filed so far. In terms of actually protecting these students outside of the court system, there doesn't appear to be a lot of other avenues for the school to pursue.
Oh, thanks. Toni Waterman there, reporting live from Washington, D.C. on those moves out of the Trump administration. And CNA's Leong in the studio looking at the direct impact of those policies on ASEAN member states.